About 200 years ago, there was a German scholar named Immanuel Kant. Kant is the person who fundamentally changed the definition of academic study that had been practiced for over 2,000 years in the Western world. Therefore, there was a significant difference in academic study before and after Kant's time. Many scholars after Kant would not have existed if it wasn't for him, and the subjects we study in school would have been way different without Kant. Let's find out what impact Kant had on academic study as a whole. Firstly, much of the academic study before Kant's time involved thoughts such as the following: what lies beyond this world? There was a field of study that contemplated the transcendental aspects of the world we live in. This included questions like whether God created this world, if there is an afterlife, or even if this world is a dream which we awaken from when we die. In modern words, it suggested this world was like a massive virtual reality game being played by someone in an unknown dimension, with us as the protagonist of the world we see. Perhaps the moment we die, the person playing the game in that different dimension would wake up. Or there was also the idea that this world was created just 5 minutes ago and memories from before that were later implanted in us. Or that the world we see is an illusion perceived by a brain submerged in a tank. Variations of these discussions about an alternate universe have not only been part of past studies, but may have also crossed the minds of many people at some point. However, Kant refuted all ideas about an alternate universe with just one statement. He said, "Stop contemplating tales of an alternate universe because it won't yield any answers." That was it. This might sound like a punchline from an argument by elementary school students, but let's explore its meaning. When it came to discussions about an alternate universe, such as the afterlife, Kant was not outright saying that the afterlife does not exist. Even if the afterlife were to exist in an undeniable manner, Kant believed that, regardless, we would never be capable of knowing it. Furthermore, since nothing can be said beyond "it's impossible to know," Kant refrained from asserting whether the afterlife exists or does not exist. Instead, he advised to stop pondering on it and think about something else. It might be a bit confusing, but Kant provided a solid explanation for why he made this judgment. To explain why we will never know whether there is truth to these alternate universe ideas, Kant delved into how our process of knowing and thinking occurs. As a result, he stated, "We acquire external information through our 5 senses, including our eyes and ears, which is then sent to our mind, and we think based on that information. We learn and think about various things in our daily lives, but according to Kant, the activities of our minds involve receiving information from the external world through the 5 senses, including our eyes and ears, and engaging in thinking based on that information." Let's take poop, for example. The reason we think there's poop is that the information about the poop is obtained through our 5 senses and then sent to the mind. Since we already know what poop is from past experiences, we use that knowledge to make assumptions like it wouldn't be good to step on this, and take actions to avoid it. You might be getting impatient waiting for me to get to the point. Essentially, this means that we can only know about information coming from our senses, such as eyes and ears. In other words, we recognize that something is poop by seeing it or smelling it. However, if our eyes were to play a trick on us and send information to the mind saying this is a snack, and the sense of smell also played a prank on us by telling us it smells sweet, then in our mind, the poop would be considered a snack. In this way, since we completely rely on our senses, such as our eyes and ears, to know and think, we can't go against them. Put differently, this means we can't know information from areas not perceptible by our senses, which in turn means we can't know information from an alternate universe. Therefore, even if the afterlife were to clearly exist, we can't gather information about that world through our senses. In other words, regardless of whether that world exists or not, we can neither say it exists nor doesn't exist. We can only say we have no way of knowing. This "we have no way of knowing" statement may feel somewhat elusive and indecisive, but it reflects the limitation of our human capabilities and suggests that this is the furthest we can contemplate. However, this clearly divided the scope of study into the realm of the knowable, covering information that can be obtained through the senses, and the realm of the unknowable, referring to information that can't be acquired through the senses. Furthermore, Kant went on to say, "True science lies in the realm where the senses can gather information, not in an alternate universe." In other words, the scientific knowledge we learn from textbooks comes from information that we gather from the external world through our senses. In essence, academic pursuits should focus on the realm of science where judgments like correct or incorrect can be made, and ideas about an alternate universe should be categorized with a straightforward, "we have no way of knowing." This approach refuted all ideas about an alternate universe that humanity engaged in for over 2,000 years with the simple statement of, "we have no way of knowing." Thinking about why we confidently discuss topics in the realm of an alternate universe despite our lack of understanding, Kant concluded, "Our reasoning has gone out of control." While our reasoning enriches our lives by allowing us to contemplate various things, our overconfidence in its power leads people to assume that they can somehow know about an alternate universe, which lies beyond our scope of understanding. Essentially, we've let our reasoning exceed the limits it can handle. In essence, the most crucial aspect of Kant's philosophy can be summarized as, "Don't get too cocky, the power of reason isn't as great as you might think." That's it in a nutshell. Anyway, that's how people came to divide the scope of knowing into these two major categories. However, Kant went further and said, "There is a third realm that is neither within the scope of science nor in the realm of an alternate universe." You're probably thinking, come on, don't make this even more complicated, but Kant further said, "Our will certainly does not belong to the realm of an alternate universe, but it does not fall within the scope of information obtained through the five senses either." While our thinking is confined to these two major realms, and considering the futility of contemplating an alternate universe, Kant introduced a new realm, the realm of the will. Indeed, we have a will to engage in our various activities every day. However, this concept of will can't simply be presented to others in a tangible form that we can confirm through our senses. Since it's not something that can be obtained through the senses, one might wonder if this will truly exists. But I believe it's a universally accepted fact that will undeniably exists. Kant then stated, "The realm of the will should be contemplated by non-scientific studies." In this way, Kant added the realm of the will alongside the realm of an unknown alternate universe and the realm addressed by science involving information from the senses. This called for people to think about this concept of will, but unlike science, it isn't universally accepted by everyone. For example, let's consider poop again. The information that there is poop is something that everyone can agree on. But when it comes to our will, such as the question of what to do with the poop, opinions can vary. Some may choose to avoid stepping on it, while others might deliberately step on it. Some may attempt to take it home, while others might consider throwing it at someone's house. In this way, the question of will presents diverse responses, making it challenging to provide a universally convincing answer, unlike in science where common agreement is sought. By the way, Kant also pondered on how one should act in terms of the will, and his perspective was something like this. One should engage in actions that, even if performed by everyone, would not make the world a worse place. For instance, considering poop, if everyone were to avoid stepping on it, the world wouldn't be adversely affected. However, if everyone were to throw poop at people's houses as soon as they found it, society would be thrown into chaos. Therefore, in this scenario, the conclusion would be, one should not throw poop at other people's houses. This represents Kant's theory regarding will. In other words, don't engage in actions that would be problematic if everyone did them. While Kant's theory of don't do things that would be problematic if everyone did them didn't have as significant an impact on later generations as his earlier theory of the three realms, Kant contemplated will in this manner. Before Kant, philosophy often carried a strong association with contemplating an alternate dimension. However, after Kant, philosophy took on a stronger association with contemplating the realm of the will. In this way, Kant fundamentally redefined the study that humanity had pursued for over 2,000 years, and scholars after Kant primarily carried out their studies within the boundaries he established. Various philosophers then delved into the realm of the will, and their theories had a profound impact on the entire world. And this concludes the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. See you next time.